This week's episode is from a previous event that I took part in at the Workforce Health USA conference. And my topic was avoiding the quiet trends. You had to be there. And since I know you missed it, I wanted to circle back and share some key takeaways. We are back for another Ask HR episode. If this is your first time listening, welcome and thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Yuslin Patoyang. Ask HR is the podcast dedicated to being your trusted resource outside of your company walls. We are an external human resources department. Ask HR is proudly sponsored by YP Personnel Management and Consulting, a strategic, tactical, and practical HR solutions consulting firm. Let's get started. What are the quiet trends? So first things first, let me make sure you all understand that these quiet trends are not so quiet anymore. And during the conference, we focus on 5 of them, even though there's quite a few more out there. We're going to start with quiet quitting. This is the one where you hear about the most. It's when the employee decides to do only the basic task of their job. They're not trying to get fired, though. They're just not going above and beyond. Then there's the quiet hiring. This one happens when the company needs a new person or a new skill. Instead of hiring someone, they just give the work to a current employee, and there's only a new title, no extra pay, just the work. This is a lot like quiet promoting, which is when the employee is given a lot more responsibility, but without the compensation or the true recognition they deserve. It's a silent increase in the workload and leads to burnout. The next one we talked about was quiet firing. This is the sneaky way for a company to push someone out. It's when your employer will stop giving advice or employee support. There's no feedback, or there's no opportunities to grow. Sometimes they even hope that you get frustrated enough and you quit on your own. And finally, we also address quiet leading. This is when the leadership is without empathy or clear communication. And so what happens with these quiet trends? Your employer or leader are hard to reach, or there's no clear guidance, and it starts to create the environment where all these quiet trends have room to grow. Now that we talked about what the actual trends are, how do we now stop the quiet and create a healthier workplace? So this was the discussion then, and what's happened since has only proven that this is still happening. Now, in addition to the roundtable at the Workforce Health Conference, I also moderated the same topic at a different conference, joined by my incredible panelists. And together, we discussed a little bit further the symptoms of the quiet trends and why these trends weren't just passing. They were more of a fundamental shift in the way that we as employees think about our career or lack thereof and what our employees' well-being at work look like. And at the core of our conversation, these were the subtle, unspoken, and the critical shifts of the way work is done and managed. Christine Berger, who is a legal counsel with Employee HR, says, quiet quitting and quiet firing are just new terms for activities that has been happening for years. These are just fad. It's an old problem that's getting new attention in a changing workforce. And realistically, as we were having our conversations during the conferences, what came to mind is that quiet quitting, the quiet firing, promoting, and leading isn't just about laziness happening in the workplace. Because according to various reports, at least 50% of the workforce are quiet quitters. And 1 of 3 employees says they're doing it. And let's not forget the pandemic that made us think what we truly want from our work. So with all this in mind, here are the top 3 things that I learned and wanted to highlight. That before we get to one of these trends, there are signs. The first one is burnout. At some point, your numbers or another will show you that it's a widespread reaction of our employees feeling unappreciated and disconnected. Secondly, that this will have an impact on everyone. While the employees might feel more in control, but for the employer, it will lead to lower morale and less creativity. And the third is to move forward with open talk and straight conversation as you recognize these quiet trends are happening. This is the best way to fight all of the quiet trends. And so, my dear people leaders, be proactive. Check in with your team. Have real and straight conversations about the future and be clear about what you expect. Don't let your people fall into the quiet leading trap. And my fellow employees, don't you shy away. Speak up. If you can complain about it, you can also be part of the solution. Start with the conversations, ask the right questions, and be direct. You're not only helping yourself, but you're also helping to build a better workforce for everyone. Now, it was a more detailed roundtable and panel conversations. And for those of you who want to explore these ideas a little bit further, I will include some of the additional resources we shared and mentioned in the episode description. And before we wrap up our episode, let's hear from one of our collaborators, Inspo.
Feeling lost in the noise of social media? Inspo cuts through the clutter, connecting you directly with real insights from real experts and industry leaders. It's a new social network dedicated to knowledge sharing, industry insights, and thought leadership. Get the latest from top minds in your field, or build your own thought leadership portfolio on Inspo. Already trusted by thousands of professionals worldwide, be part of the conversation and download Inspo Experts today on the App Store or visit www.inspo.expert.
And here's my final thought. And it's one that I didn't really get right away. It's been part of my personal and professional development. And it's this: the best workplace are built on honest and straight conversations, not the quiet assumptions. And that wraps up this week's episode of Ask HR. Thank you for continuing to support our show. Listen to us now on Spotify or your favorite podcast platform. If you have a question for the show, send it to askhr@yppmc.com. Remember to subscribe, share, engage, and leave us a review.